Welcome to Town Talk, the official podcast of the town of Stephenville, where community conversations happen. I'm Marilee Joy Castillo, Communications Manager at the town. This podcast takes place in the Chamber of Town Hall, where we share updates, ideas, and information about what's happening in the community. Joining me today is Donald White. Don is a candidate for council in the upcoming municipal election. So, Don, welcome.
Thank you.
All right. So first of all, before we get into the tough questions, why don't you tell us a bit about yourself?
Okay, I'm a retired tradesperson. I was born and raised in Stephenville. My lineage comes back from the first settlers in Stephenville, the LeBlancs and Gallants. I worked 41 years as a tradesperson. I started out with a young family. I was involved with the Boy Scouts of Canada here in Stephenville back in the late 70s, early 80s. I was involved with unions most of my working career. I was on local union executives. I was on provincial executives. I was on negotiating teams. I was on occupational health and safety committees. I was on social committees with different employers. And I always had a strong interest in Stephenville. That's where my roots are. And I'd like to see some of my offspring return here.
Excellent. So, Don, tell us, what motivated you to run for council?
Well, I was always interested in council. Before, I guess people know me and my wife, she's a present councillor. Before she even got interested in council, I used to come to meetings here. And I was always wanted to know what was happening here. And I was always expecting more from the council. But, things don't play out the way you expect. Council only can do their best. And my wife got involved into it, and I kind of helped her too in the background. And she just couldn't take the stress anymore, so she felt it was best that she stepped aside. So I said, well, I think the present council is doing a wonderful job, and I know a lot of them not returning, so I think I got something to offer to the public.
Okay. And if you were to pick an issue right now, what do you think is the top issue in Stephenville right now?
Right now, the top issue, I think a lot of the public lost confidence in the present council and the previous councils. We have a lot of naysayers here, and I think I'd like to promote the idea that we should be more positive about our community. I'm looking at developments. I see we're right on the edge of either a rocket launch or a jump over the cliff as far as industrial or commercial development. I'm all for that. I'm all for that 100%. And I'm not going to make any promises if I get elected, because I don't believe you should make promises that you can't keep. And as a councillor, I only got one voice out of 7. But I'm going to do my best at the position to support business and support the people in general. And I'm open 24/7 to anyone that wants to speak to me.
Excellent. If you were to, choose how the town is to prioritize community and development and economic development and municipal infrastructure, which you just mentioned, how do you think the town should prioritize those things?
I think they're doing a wonderful job right now myself. The infrastructure is coming along. We've had no infrastructure rebuilds or expansions in multiple years, and the council is, to me, doing a wonderful job. I'm just going to try to grow on to what they've gotten right now. I think they're headed in the right direction. I want to make sure what they started gets finished.
Okay, so how will you make sure voices of residents are heard here at the council table?
Well, people know me. I'm a little bit outspoken, but I do have set ears and I do listen. And I'm approachable. I'm retired, like I said earlier. I'm busy. I'm a farmer, but I'm open to anybody 24/7.
Excellent. So what's your approach to encouraging small business growth here in our community?
I think the town needs to, and not only the town, the existing businesses need to accept new businesses in town. I've heard of instances over the past several years that new businesses came into town and they were given the cold shoulder by the local businesses, and I think that's an attitude that needs to be dropped. I think moving forward, I think the town needs and the residents need to think positive. Any new business creates economic advancement for the town. It creates jobs for people. And I think we need to probably put a little more emphasis on that.
Okay. Do you see opportunities for more regional collaboration with surrounding communities throughout Bay St. George?
I'm glad you brought that up because I see a lot of instances where we need to collaborate with other communities. I'll give you an example now. The now defunct airport. The town has been funding that back over 20 years from taxpayers in the town of Stephenville, not the taxpayers in Kippens or Stephenville Crossing or anywhere. One council back years ago reached out to all the communities in Bay St. George, and only one community offered to put any financial support with Stephenville for the airport. And I think what needs to be done, we're the hub of Bay St. George, something like Scornabrook is the hub of the West Coast. I think our council needs to be more outspoken, and even if they got to shame the other communities to collaborate with Stephenville to develop the whole area, not just the Stephenville town, develop the whole Bay St. George area, because little communities just don't have the power, and we got power in numbers. So I think if the West Coast united together as one, in approaching government for different funding and different things like that, I think it would go a long ways. And that's where we're lacking right now.
Mm-hmm. So, Don, what qualities or experiences do you bring that would make you an effective counselor?
Well, like I said earlier, I'm outspoken. I use common sense. I don't mind spending money, but I know how hard it is to collect or earn money. So I'm sort of prudent. I use common sense in everything that I do, from the time I wake up, time I go back to bed. And I think that's the only approach to use when you're dealing with the public or public funding and stuff. And with the experience I've had with the unions over time, I know how to negotiate with people. I know how to talk to people. I know how to listen. And I know how to solve problems. I've been a problem solver all my life. Anybody that knows me will tell you that I can't solve the problem. Probably nobody can. But I'm only one voice. Mm-hmm. And like I say, where I'm a bit outspoken, I will get my point across no matter what, within reason,
Yes. Okay, so how would you ensure transparency for the town?
Well, like I say, I've been involved with a lot of different things. And I was on the board of directors with the local co-op here, too, for several years. And I understand transparency and I understand privacy and all that kind of stuff. I think the council right now is a little more proficient in providing transparency than we ever had in the last 40 years. But there's a limit to what you can go with that. And you get the rumor mill on the go, and that really drives a spear in the council's heart trying to get something done. Like, if they know that say there's an industry coming here tomorrow, they can't come out and divulge the document regarding that because it's not factual. And then you're dealing with a second party, whoever the private entity is, and they don't want their business out in the public until they're ready. I think there's a limit to what council can do. I think the present council is doing fairly well. No doubt, like I say, you get naysayers all the time. But that's what I would say about that.
Excellent. So I know housing seems to be an issue in the town, in the province, in the country. Do you think Stephenville needs more housing options? And a second part to that is if you do think so, how should council address that?
Okay. I think if you look at Stephenville itself and you look at the single family homes and then you look at the apartments, I think the apartments might be more than 50% of the homes. So that in itself will tell you that we're lacking housing in this town. There's a lot of people in those apartments don't want to be in there, but they can't. The affordability is the problem. See, over half our workforce is on minimum wage, and our minimum wage is below the Canadian standard for poverty. Mm-hmm. So how can those people afford housing? I don't agree with the multi-unit housing like Labrador housing put up through the years. I think that creates a stigma in the community. I have no problem with duplexes, or small single-family homes, even tiny homes. Like the town allowed some tiny homes on Brook Street there, and there was a need for that. A lot of single people can afford that.
Mm-hmm.
No doubt they're expensive, but I think, the council should be able to approach our local politician. I don't think I know our local politician right now is not in the governing body, but I don't think he's ever met with our local council to find out the needs of the council or the community, which I think is terrible. I think our local representative should be working working with our council or any council to try to garnish funds from federal or provincial entities or even private sector. But I think there's a need for affordable homes for low-income people and our seniors. I know myself and my wife now, we're seniors, and we're looking at downsizing.
Mm-hmm.
We got a 4-bedroom home there, and if I wasn't able to do my own maintenance and provide my own heat and all that kind of stuff, we wouldn't be able to afford to live there. And we got a reasonable pension. I've been retired 20 years. My pension haven't went up 1 penny in 20 years. So I'm not on the poverty line, but I wouldn't be able to afford another house today of any size. I think as far as council, I think they need to push harder federally and even with all the housing entities across Canada, mortgage companies and that. I think new homeowners, maybe they shouldn't have to pay any mortgage rates for the first 10 years or something on a 20 or 25-year mortgage. I think it should be interest-free to give them a start. We don't have that today, right? And we'll never have it if it don't change. So,
thank you, Don. So I just have one more question, and basically that one is, if you could sum up why people should vote for you, what would you say?
I'm outspoken, I'm honest, I go straight to the point, and I have respect for everybody.
Excellent. I really want to thank you for coming in here today, Don, and answering our questions that we have for you. And we certainly wish you the best of luck in the upcoming municipal election.
Thank you, Marilee.
Thank you. So this concludes this episode of Town Talk. Thank you very much to Donald White, who is a candidate running for council in the upcoming municipal election, for joining us here in Chamber today. And stay tuned for another edition of Town Talk.